Hey everyone, I'm Amber. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about the Zhou dynasty's 8 delicacies, the emperor's exclusive top-tier menu. Imagine being the supreme ruler of the known world back then, commanding all under heaven. What did you eat every day? Dragon liver and phoenix marrow? That's pure myth. But in reality, the Zhou emperor did enjoy an incredibly luxurious feast, crafted with peak culinary skill. This banquet was seriously recorded in the Zhou dynasty's official texts like the Rites of Zhou and the Confucian classic Book of Rites. This is our main character today, the Zhou dynasty's 8 delicacies. First, why is it specifically the Zhou's 8 delicacies that achieve lasting fame? This wasn't some popularity contest decided by common folks. It was the officially mandated taste of royal authority. In the strictly hierarchical Zhou society, what you ate and how you ate it were vital parts of ritual propriety. As the highest ruler, the emperor's dining standards were naturally the most supreme. The Rites of Zhou states plainly, when the emperor ate, he must be served 8 precious delicacies. These 8 delicacies are the 8 treasures. So, its status was officially certified, a symbol of power and identity. History didn't preserve the name of the chef who invented them, but we know it was the work of a vast and professional imperial culinary team. The Zhou royal kitchen operated with astonishingly fine divisions of labor. Pao Ren handled animal slaughter, Peng Ren was in charge of boiling meats, Nei Yong specialized in frying and stir. Frying, Wai Yong managed food supply for rituals and banquets. Heng Ren controlled the fires, Le Ren made dried meats, and crucially, the Shi Yi, the emperor's personal dietitian, this expert ensured meals were delicious, healthy, and conformed to ritual standards. The 8 delicacies were at the crystallization of this top-tier team's collective wisdom, the pinnacle of cuisine born from the Zhou dynasty's institutions and culture. The legendary 8 delicacies have ancient-sounding names, but their contents are actually quite down to earth. The first is Shanao. The name sounds a bit mysterious, but it's essentially an ancient luxury rice bowl. Finely prepared meat sauce is fried until hot, then poured piping hot over fragrant, cooked rice. The finishing touch is stirring in rich animal fat, like lard or tallow. As the rice soaks up the savory, oily meat sauce and fat, one bite delivers pure happiness from carbs and fat, simple, direct, and deeply satisfying. The second is Chenlu. The mu in its name means to imitate. It's the twin of Shanao, made almost exactly the same way. The only difference is swapping the rice for cooked, yellow millet. Millet rice has a chewier texture, and topped with the same meat sauce and fat, it offers a different flavor profile. The third is Pao Tun. This dish is absolutely the king of effort among the 8 delicacies. Its preparation process is staggeringly complex. Even by today's standards, a true, top-tier, labor-intensive dish. First, select a plump, tender, suckling pig, clean out its innards. Next, stuff the piglet's belly full of dates. Then, tightly wrap the entire little pig with fresh reeds. Now comes the crucial step called Pao, coating the reed-wrapped pig completely in wet mud to form a large clay ball. Place this big mud ball into a fire and roast it until the clay becomes hard and charred. Crack off the clay shell, taking the burnt skin with it. Then, mix a thin rice batter and coat the entire treated piglet in it. Next, deep fry the batter, coated piglet whole, in hot oil. This step showcases the advanced battering and deep frying technology of the time. Of course, it's not done after frying. Cut the piglet into pieces, place them in a small cauldron, then put this small cauldron into a larger one filled with water. This is double boiling. Simmer it gently over low heat for a full 3 days and 3 nights. After 3 days, this much traveled suckling pig meat is finally ready to eat, served with a special dipping sauce made from meat sauce and vinegar. Just think about that process. From mud roasting, to battering and deep frying, to a 3-day slow simmer, the time and effort expended are truly extreme, all pursuing that perfect melt in your mouth texture infused with the fragrance of dates. The fourth is Zhang. Zhang refers to a young oa or lamb. This dish is Pao Tun with a swapped lead. The preparation method and steps are completely copied from Pao Tun. The only difference is replacing the little pig with an equally tender young lamb. So, it's roast suckling lamb. The fifth is Daozun. Its name itself feels hands-on. Dao means to pound or beat. It could be called China's earliest handmade meatball or minced meat paste. It uses the tenderest, most prime cuts of loin meat from beef, lamb, or deer. Chefs use tools, likely stone rods or wooden mallets, to pound these pieces of meat repeatedly and vigorously. The goal is to completely smash and remove all the connective tissue. This step determines the final texture. After pounding it smooth and fine enough, it's cooked, possibly boiled or steamed. Once cooked, this incredibly tender meat is shaped by hand into balls or patties and finally eaten dipped in sauce. The sixth is zai. This dish in the Zhou dynasty pursued ultimate freshness and can be seen as China's earliest high-end beef sashimi. The method sounds simple but demands the highest quality ingredients. Use extremely fresh beef, emphasizing it must be freshly slaughtered. Slice it thinly against the grain for tenderness. Then, soak these bright red meat slices in fragrant wine for a full night, letting the wine aroma fully penetrate. Eat it the next day, raw, seasoned with plum sauce and vinegar. It's eaten raw, pursuing the most primal, freshest essence of the beef. Wine is used to kill bacteria, remove gaminess, and add aroma, while plum sauce and vinegar enhance freshness and cut richness. The seventh is ao. Here ao doesn't mean to boil, but rather to dry or to cure. This dish is essentially the Zhou dynasty version of spiced beef jerky or venison biltong. The method is to select beef or venison, first pound it thin and flat, like for Pao Tun, removing the sinew. Then, evenly sprinkle both sides of the meat with minced ginger, cinnamon powder, and salt, all precious spices at the time. Next, place these seasoned meat slices over low heat to slowly dry, or air dry them, making meat jerky. When you want to eat it, you can chew it directly as a chewy snack, or dip it in sauce and pan, fry it with a little oil for extra fragrance. The eighth is gan liao. This dish might sound the most unusual to modern ears. Liao refers to the fatty membrane from the intestines. The main ingredients are dog, liver, and dog intestinal fat. The method is to take fresh dog liver, wrap it in the dog's intestinal fat like a net, then skewer this fatty liver bundle and roast it over fire. Roast until the intestinal fat melts, sizzling, the oil penetrating the liver, making it rich, tender, and fragrant. When eaten, it was accompanied by a thick rice porridge cooked with wolf fat. This flavor combination seems unique today, but it fully reflects the Zhou people's wisdom of using every part of the animal, developing distinctive flavors even from offal and fat. So why exactly were these 8 things called the 8 delicacies? First, and most importantly, they were the ultimate symbol of supreme power. The 8 delicacies were the Zhou Emperor's exclusive privileged menu. Only he had the right to enjoy this complete, most complexly crafted banquet. What he ate, and how he ate, it directly embodied the strict hierarchy. The involvement of the dietitian further tightly bound diet to health and ritual propriety. Eating the 8 delicacies meant tasting the flavor of imperial authority. Second, they represented the pinnacle of culinary technology. These 8 dishes practically encompassed all the most advanced, most complex cooking techniques of the era. Super techniques like those in Pao Tun, combining mud roasting, batter, frying, and slow simmering. The hand pounding of tender meat in Tao Zhuan, the raw preparation and seasoning in Zi, the jerky making in Ao, all represented the profound understanding of ingredient handling and the peak of skill for chefs of that time. Third, they reflected the pursuit of ultimate ingredients. In an era when common people might eat meat only a few times a year, all 8 delicacies were purely meat dishes. Moreover, the selection was extremely particular. The tenderest loins, the youngest suckling pigs and lambs, the freshest, just slaughtered beef. This, in itself, was an enormous luxury. Fourth, they formed a complete banquet structure and dietary philosophy. The 8 delicacies weren't 8 isolated dishes. Combined, they were a complete system. Staple carbs like shanao and chanemu, main courses like Pao Tun, pozang, and Tao Zhuan, distinctive flavors like ziz and gan liao, and preserved, portable food like ao. It embodied the Zhou concept of balanced eating and harmonizing the 5 flavors, pursuing taste, balance, and structural completeness, a very advanced dietary philosophy for its time. In some places dedicated to reviving ancient food culture, like certain restaurants or cultural experience programs in Shan, Shanxi, China, you might find new Zhou 8 delicacies, banquets, or partially recreated dishes. Chefs interpret the ancient texts, adapting them to modern tastes and safety requirements. For instance, Pao Tun might be simplified to a suckling pig roasted then fried or steamed, skipping the mud coating in 3-day simmer, but still pursuing crispy skin and tender meat. I might use high quality, safely processed beef suitable for raw consumption, seasoned with wine and plum sauce, presenting the raw flavor more safely. The covered rice format of Chanel is easily preserved. The hand-pounded meatballs of Pao Tun are common delicious items in modern Chinese cuisine. However, a completely authentic Zhou 8 Delicacies feast is very hard to experience today. Ingredient limitations are a major factor. Dog liver, wolf fat, etc. are difficult to obtain legally and ethically today and clash with modern animal protection sensibilities. Some wild game mentioned in ancient texts is protected and cannot be consumed. Furthermore, safety concerns are paramount. Dishes like xai involving raw beef face high modern awareness of parasite risks and are hard to promote without strict safety guarantees. Secondly, the time-consuming processes, like the original complex 3-day simmer for Pao Tun, are prohibitively expensive in today's efficiency-driven restaurant industry, making near impossible full replication. So, were the Zhou 8 delicacies actually delicious? We can't travel back in time to taste them, but we can analyze rationally. Technically and ingredient-wise, they represented the highest culinary standards of their era, using the most prime materials and the most complex techniques, pursuing ultimate textures. Theoretically, they should have been the best-tasting things of that time. But seasoning is the key variable. Zhou Dynasty seasonings were far less diverse than today's, relying mainly on fermented meat sauces, salt, plum sauce, vinegar, and small amounts of spices like ginger and cinnamon. No chili peppers, no complex synthetic spices. Sugar was precious. For modern palates accustomed to rich layers of flavor, the Zhou 8 delicacies might taste relatively pure, even plain, or certain fatty dishes might feel overly greasy. Pao Tun, or pozang, after 3 days of slow simmering, would surely yield meat falling off the bone, deeply infused with date fragrance. Paired with meat sauce and vinegar dip, it should have been rich and flavorful, the texture perhaps similar to superb char siu or braised pork belly, but with less complex spicing. Pao Tun, the purely hand-pounded meat paste, would have an incredibly fine, springy texture and should be delicious dipped in sauce, akin to top-tier hand-beaten beef bowls. Xai, if made with safe, high-quality raw beef, enhanced by wine, aroma, and tangy plum sauce, its fresh, clean taste profile shouldn't lose out to modern Japanese beef tataki. Chanao, or shanu, hot meat sauce with animal fat over grains. Definitely savory, much like beloved lard rice, even today. Ganliao, roasted animal liver, has a unique, rich flavor. Wrapped in fatty netting and basted, it would be unctuous. Paired with thick porridge, it might have been a potent, savory combination, though likely the least acceptable to modern tastes. The significance of the Zhou 8 delicacies far transcends 8 dishes. They are actually the starting point of Chinese banquet culture. As China's first systematically recorded imperial feast, the concept of 8 delicacies for the next 1,000+ years originated here. From the Yuan dynasty's northern 8 delicacies, to the Qing dynasty's mountain and sea 8 delicacies, to the Republican era's upper, middle, and lower 8 delicacies. The core idea, using the rarest or most elaborately prepared foods to represent the ultimate indulgence, all stemmed from the Zhou 8 delicacies. Although later eras emphasized ingredient rarity more, while the Zhou emphasized technique, the concept of 8 delicacies itself began in the Zhou dynasty. They embody a millennium of culinary heritage. The core technique of Pao Tun long, low-temperature simmering is the embryonic principle behind modern, high-end Western techniques like sous vide for achieving ultimate tenderness. Tao Zhen's physical pounding to alter meat texture is fundamental to making top-tier meatballs. Zia's treatment of raw ingredients and use of wine acidity parallels Japanese sashimi or Western steak tartare. Batter frying became a Chinese culinary hallmark. These aren't mere antiques. They are technical genes traveling across millennia. Furthermore, they represent the source of the food as medicine concept and dietary philosophy. The emergence of the Zhou dietitian tightly bound diet to health and longevity, an idea deeply rooted in Chinese culture. The pairing of the 8 delicacies also reflects an early dietary philosophy pursuing balance. The Zhou emphasized harmony within diversity. When hosting guests, the 8 delicacies seasoning, though not complex, focused on harmony. This inclusive, palate-pleasing approach contained the germ of Chinese cuisine's characteristic fusion nature. Understanding the Zhou 8 delicacies isn't just about knowing what ancient people ate. It's a key to unlocking the profound foundations of Chinese culinary heritage. We hope this ancient royal menu from the East lets you feel the unique charm and incredible depth of Chinese food culture. I am Amber. Catch you next time.